today, I'm going to give you some tips and techniques so that when you present on camera or in person, people will say, "How do you do it?"
Hello, everybody. My name is Samir Mansour. It's a pleasure to host you here today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are all joining from around the world. It's a great honor for me to host you virtually from Washington, D.C. We don't always have access to the experts we need as we navigate these historic times. So it's our mission to bring these experts to you for our Timely Response series. And on our website at www.nolimitgen.org, you can find practical child well-being training videos on many timely topics, everything from children's mental health and protection and well-being to healing practices and activities. We would greatly appreciate if you could support our work by sharing our content with friends and colleagues in your network. All our content and programming is supported by your generosity, so please consider a donation through our website at www.nolimitgen.org so we can continue to support you with quality programming. A quick note as we get started today. We are video recording this for publication online so that you may access it later. If you have your camera on, please feel free to turn it off at this time. And all our live broadcasts are designed to be participatory. So there's a chat box in the right corner of your screen, which you can use to ask questions. We'll also ask you questions throughout the presentation so you can share your thoughts with us and the audience at any moment. We encourage that. And now on to today's show. On a previous episode with Harvard University's Dr. Gil Noem, we discussed how many of the changes precipitated by the pandemic are likely here to stay. These include the shift of many of our in-person classrooms, meetings, and interactions to the virtual domain. So our topic today is timely for all of us: how to be brilliant in virtual communications. And we have with us today communications expert and coach Alicia Sedgwick, who will equip us all with the practical guidance to master online and in-person communications. Our hope is that you will have the tools to become natural at this. Alicia is a communications coach, a corporate trainer who is Zooming in today from Monaco. She currently teaches at the International University of Monaco and the International School of Monaco. She offers private coaching to corporations, associations, and individuals. Alicia has served as a master of ceremonies for 3 TEDx conferences, hosted international press conferences for London 2012 Olympics, and managed red carpets at the Laureus World Sports Awards. She's also managed talent relations for the BBC Chelsea Flower Show in London and in the green room of the World Music Awards. Alicia, thank you so much for joining us here today.
It is my pleasure and delight to join you, Samir, and to be here for No Limit Generation.
Wonderful. Well, I know the audience here today is comprised of so many different individuals, teachers, employees, students. Everyone is looking to get their hands on some of this practical advice. So in addition to being a communications coach, you are also a professor and a teacher. And like so many of us, much of your in-person job has shifted into the online domain. So what has been your observations about how this new dynamic has affected teachers, their relationships with children? Perhaps you've noticed some changes in office communications that might be noting as well?
Yes, I certainly have. I will admit to you, Samir, and our audience today, that the rapid transition from teaching in person to online was overwhelming. It was exhausting and stressful. From one day to the next, I was teaching in person, and then I had to change and adapt all of my courses at the university and for my students, both private and corporate. I had to change and adapt the way that I taught. And although I was vaguely aware of the online platforms for that purpose, I now had to teach solely on those platforms. So it was a very, very steep learning curve. And yes, it was stressful and it caused a lot of anxiety. But coming out of it, I would say that the bond between me and my students and my colleagues is deeper than ever before. because we are sharing information, we are sharing experience, and we are talking and communicating so much more. There is a very great feeling that we're in this together, and we're learning and growing together, and we are all in the same boat. And Samir, it's not the Titanic.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. We always like to see that when there's moments of when there's moments of challenge, there's moments of opportunity to forge even deeper bonds. And so I'm so grateful that you're seeing this opportunity here. And of course, this conversation today is to ride that opportunity wave, right? Just because things have gone online doesn't mean healthy communication needs to stop. There might be an opportunity here to actually build deeper relationships, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So I know when I first started using Zoom to host these live events, I was admittedly Zoom bombed not once, but twice. So there's some residual Zoom PTSD around that whole experience. But in all seriousness, whether you're a teacher preparing for teaching a classroom, whether you're presenting to an online audience or to clients, many of us might feel a little antsy before turning on that camera and entering a Zoom meeting. Will I be engaging? Will my audience connect to me personally and to what I'm saying? Do I have my pants on? You know, how might we be able to overcome any of these fears or anxieties about online or virtual meetings?
Yes, yeah. I feel your pain with that Zoom bombing. That's terrible. I empathize. And maybe I can welcome our audience personally at this stage and welcome you all to 24 Karat Magic. 24 Karat Magic in the air. 24 Karat Magic, because when you watch a magician do their magic tricks, you think, how do they do it? And today, I'm going to give you some tips and techniques so that when you present on camera or in person, people will say, how do you do it? So getting rid of that anxiety immediately, first bit of magic, whenever you present, it is not about you. It's about your audience. Just think about it. When you listen to somebody and you watch them speak, how do you want to feel? You want to feel interested. You want to feel comfortable. You want to feel relaxed. You certainly don't want to feel, oh my God, I wish this would end because it's so boring. You certainly don't want to feel uncomfortable, and you don't want to feel that the person is so nervous and so shy that they want the presentation to be over and done with, and you want the presentation to be over and done with as a result. So think about how you like to feel when you are listening and watching somebody, and that's how you want your audience to feel. So first thing to know, it's not about you, it's about your audience, how you want them to think and feel as a result of your presentation. So yay, the onus is off of you. But if you do feel shaky, you get up to speak, maybe you're on camera and you pick up your notes and your hand is shaking. It's perfectly understandable. Maybe the butterflies in your stomach are flapping their wings so much that you actually feel physically sick. And you're feeling really shaky and you're feeling terribly wobbly. What you need to do is to clench everything very, very tightly. Clench your hands, your arms, your legs, your buttocks. Clench it all. Tight, 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 tight. And then release. Clench it all. Tight, tight, tight. And then release. And everything calms down and your hand will stop shaking and you will stop shaking. Maybe you'll find as well that your mouth gets dry and you think, oh, how am I going to get the words out? Because my mouth is so dry, it feels like sandpaper. What you can do is to very gently bite the inside of your cheek. Very gently. Immediately you do that, saliva is released in your mouth. So very gently, it's not to inflict pain. You bite the inside of your cheek, it immediately releases saliva. Maybe you don't want to do that because you're rather afraid that you'll have blood in your mouth rather than saliva, and I understand that. If you don't want to do that, very quickly run your tongue around the front of your teeth. Now, I just exaggerated it to show you, but if you do it very quickly, nobody knows that you've done it, and you have got saliva in your mouth. You've stopped shaking, you've got a wet mouth so that you can speak, the words can come out, and part of the magic is already beginning.
That's wonderful. Thank you for those. And, sometimes we also hear the advice, taking just a deep breath, right? It's a deep breath will often help refresh us and set our mind and get us focused for the moment that's to come.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Samir, because that's a very, very good point. Because when we do get nervous and we get anxious and stressed, we forget to breathe. We're so sort of conscious of I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to get the words out. So we forget to breathe. So actually, there is an exercise that you can do. I call it the 7-11, and it's not a shot. And for all those that know me, they will know that I definitely relate to shopping. However, on this occasion, the 7-11 is not the shop. It's a breathing exercise that gets you into the rhythm of being able to breathe. So what I want you to do is to take a breath for 7. But here's the thing. I want you to take the breath as if you are inflating a balloon in your stomach, so that the breath is not coming from up here, from your chest. You see what happens when you take the breath from up here, and everything gets tight and it gets tense. So instead, think of taking the breath from your stomach and inflating a balloon when you breathe in. And you inflate that balloon and breathe in for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you deflate the balloon when you exhale for 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and it will get you into the rhythm of breathing, and you will remember to breathe. And also, you will have breath because you're using the breath from the stomach or the diaphragm rather than up here in the chest. So thank you, Samir, for reminding me that it is so important to breathe.
Absolutely. And, not only does this have the benefit of focusing us in that moment and relaxing us in the moment, we know that the practice of breathing like that, taking those deep, slow breaths, it rebalances the fight or flight, the fear, and the calming parts of our brain, so that once we are in a place where we've taken those deep breaths, we immediately feel a lot more clear and focused. So thank you for sharing that guidance with us. So, now that I'm calm and ready, I've done my breaths, I've done these exercises, I've run my tongue over my teeth, and I've recognized that presenting is not about me, it's about my audience. I'm in game mode, but I'm ready to hit that button. According to your work, there are 4 powerful P's, which taken together can help us become much more effective in our communication and more dynamic in our presence. So Go ahead, take us through the 4 P's that you've come up with.
Well, I'd like to ask my audience, our audience at this point, whether they can guess what are the 4 P's of effective communication. 4 P's of effective communication. And maybe you can write that in the chat now. If any of my students are watching, do not write it in the chat now. Don't give it away. But if you haven't experienced my teaching or training before, can you guess what are the 4 P's of effective communication. Now, Samir, if anybody is writing in the chat now, their ideas, oh, great. Okay, you'll have to tell me because I don't have my glasses on for reasons that I will share with you a little later. So tell me, what are the suggestions?
Sure. So we've got purpose, we've got peacefulness, we've got participation, pronunciation, polite, plan, patience, preparation. We've got a joker who says panic, pronunciation. So yeah, we're getting a lot of P's in the chat.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I have to say that the No Limit generation is clearly very smart and very intelligent. So thank you so much for your participation. Okay, I'm going to tell you because we haven't got too much time. So the first P of the 4 P's of effective communication is pitch. That is pitch. Not with a B, because that's an entirely different subject. It's pitch. And when I refer to pitch, I am talking about tone of voice. I'm talking about tonality. If you think about, again, people that you like to listen to, what is it about their voice that you like to hear? I'm a really big fan of Barbra Streisand. There you go. I told you. I love Barbra Streisand. I love the way that she sings because every word that she sings is different. The phrasing is different. You listen to Ella Fitzgerald, you listen to Frank Sinatra, listen to these greats. The phrasing is different on every word. And when you speak, you need to ensure that not only are you articulating and enunciating so that your voice is clear and the audience can understand what you are saying, but also it needs to be interesting. So there needs to be vocal variety. And the way to achieve that is to think of your voice as an instrument. If you think that your voice is a keyboard, there are so many notes on that keyboard. And I think that most of us probably use very, very few of them. Some of the white notes, some of the black notes, but we don't use the whole range of that keyboard. And that's what we need to do. If you think of your voice as being your brand, we spend a lot of time marketing ourselves on our image. We have a logo, but think about your voice as your brand as well. Because as soon as you open your mouth and you speak, people have formed an opinion of you. So what is the opinion that you want your audience to have of you? The opinion is that they want to listen to you, that you're interesting, that you're warm. So use your voice. You know, there's a film, an old film, Singing in the Rain, classic film. And it's with Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds. And part of the premise of the film is that there's a star, very beautiful star, of the black and white films and the silent movies. And they go into the talkies. And the beautiful star of the silent movies opens her mouth and it's like, nye, 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 nye. And she's not going to be successful in talkies. So they actually dub her voice. They get Debbie Reynolds to speak for her. But that really, for me, identifies how important it is that your voice is good, the tone is good. Think about vocal variety. Think about almost that you use your voice to climb up the stairs and then you stay on the landing and then you come down the stairs. So that you're going up the stairs, staying on the landing, and then coming down the stairs. And that way, there's vocal variety. At the end of this session, on the video, which will be on No Limit Generation's website, there will be a resource from me, which is some vocal exercises. And I would like you to look at those vocal exercises and to do them every day. They will not only help you with your articulation and enunciation, but they'll also help you if you do them with different emotions. There's one on there all about Betty. And Betty bought a bit of butter, but she found the butter bitter, so she bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better. And I'd like you to do that exercise as if you are angry with Betty, you're sad with Betty, and you're happy with Betty. And it will get you into being expressive. So that is pitch, the first P. The second P is pace. Because when we get nervous, we tend to talk either very, very quickly, or very slowly. So it needs to be at a pace which is, again, engaging and that our audience wants to listen and that they can hear and understand clearly. On those vocal exercises, there is number 6, which goes like this. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. And you say that 3 times. Easy for me to say, you're saying. Well, you'll get into it and you'll hear me saying it, so that will help you. You'll notice when it's written that it says imagine, comma. That's your cue that you can breathe. An imaginary, breathe. Menagerie, breathe. Manager, and so on. That will give you your pace that you should be speaking when you present. So we've got pitch, we have got pace, and the third P is pause. Pause to remind us to breathe. Pause also for effect, used sparingly. If you think that you've lost your audience's attention, pause for a second and they will come back to you. Also, pause is a reminder too that even though it's a presentation, it's a conversation. Okay, it's a bit one-sided, but it is still a conversation. And when you have a conversation, you actually do stop from time to time talking. And it's okay if you stop during your presentation. If you need to collect your thoughts, you can stop. You can slightly look away from the camera whilst you're doing that, but only very sparingly again and for a split second. But you can stop. So pause is to remind you to breathe. It's to remind you that you can reflect, you can think about what you're saying, and you can use it very sparingly for effect if you think that you've lost your audience's attention. Pitch, pace, pause, and power. I got the power! And you, ladies and gentlemen, have the power as well. You've got the power in the way that you use your voice. You've got the power in the way that you use your body. You need to have the power pose. If you are standing, that is legs hip width apart and your hands by your side. If you are on camera and on screen, it is that your shoulders are down, they're back, that you look relaxed and you look in control. And part of the power is that you are in control. It's your presentation. Nobody knows what you're going to say. So you are in command. You are in control. You, ladies and gentlemen, have got the power.
That's wonderful. That's a great way of bringing it all together. Thank you so much, Alicia, for that. And, you know, I know that especially the first one, it really resonated with me, pitch. We often don't think about, you know, how our voices are being received. And if we watch others, or I'm sure we've all been in these talks where the lecturer might have the same tone of voice for 45 minutes. And, after about 5 minutes, we're starting to zone off. So, making sure our voices are varying. I mean, when we're watching TV, the scene gets to change, so that keeps us engaged. But when we're on a Zoom presentation, the scene doesn't change, the background behind me isn't going to get any more exciting. So I get to think about how I can be a little bit more dynamic to keep things moving forward. And I hope I'm doing a good job, Alicia. I feel like,
you certainly are. Oh, you certainly are.
My presentation skills are being judged right now. But thank you for that.
Well, we're all learning together. No,
Yes.
It is so important, actually, yes, that there is vocal variety. And actually, one of the things, too, interesting, that if you keep to the lower register of your voice when you're on camera, rather than it being up here, because, as soon as it gets up there, or it gets right down there, again, it's a distraction rather than it being a comfort for your listener. So try to keep the voice on the lower register, particularly when you are on camera. And don't go up at the end of a sentence. So if I'm talking to you about the 4 Ps and how they can help you with effective communication, this is very difficult for our Australian listeners, because they tend to talk that, it goes up at the end of the voice, the end of the sentence, and it's all like that. So the effect, though, when you go up at the end of the sentence, is that somehow you don't come across as so confident, you don't come across as so credible, and you don't come across as so reliable and trustworthy. So try not to go up at the end of the sentence. Instead, keep it on the level of the landing, or coming down from the landing, from what I said to you earlier.
Absolutely. And that's probably because, when we ask a question, it ends with a high note, right? And as opposed to saying something with confidence and clarity, which, doesn't end on a high note. So then we have, of course, the power of the pause, which is very, powerful when we can use, the pregnant pause, or even silence strategically, right? Because what happens when people get quiet, others will lean in, they'll listen, right? So strategically, not the whole time, but strategic pauses and silences can be very powerful. And of course, we know, for example, I mean, you've curated TED Talks, that doing the power pose or the Superman pose, even before going on to an event, can make you feel a lot more powerful. I mean, oftentimes before going on to live audience, or even online audiences, I'll stand in a bathroom stall beforehand and just stand like, in the Superman pose, and you will start to feel it. Your physiology will affect your psychology, and that will come through.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love, Samir, that you're bringing up all of these points, because I think that it's so important that before you give a presentation, if you have a mantra that works for you, or you have a song or a dance that works for you, do it, say it. Do that dance. I love music. I love that 24 karat magic. So, just playing that and dancing around the room so that it gets your energy up, so that by the time that you come on screen, you're already energetic and you're enthusiastic. And it's so important that you are. If you do these vocal exercises that you'll receive, and you do them every day, it's also going to help you, and if you do them before you present, because it will get your tongue kind of going, and it will get you going. It will help you to feel that you're pumped. If it is doing the Superman pose, whatever it is that works for you, do it, because it will really help you, and it will help you with your power. Yeah. And yes, there is a power in silence as well. There's a power in you using your voice when you are reflecting, that the voice then becomes a little more quiet. And then when you're talking about something where you really want to get your audience up on their feet and cheering for you, you might then increase the pace of what you're saying, or you might actually get louder. So you're using your voice for real effect and getting your audience to be drawn in with you on the journey of your presentation.
Absolutely. And, for teachers out there who are tuning in today, students especially, they're used to, if they're in front of a screen, it's going to be something very dynamic, engaging. You're competing with the TikToks and the Instagram videos. So these are all golden nuggets that you can, elevate your game with. So Alicia, you've created a cheat sheet for us on what you're calling the do's and don'ts of online communications. There might be some things that we're doing right now that fall along the sins of Zoom presentations. So please enlighten us on what we should not be doing and what we should be doing.
Okay, the first thing that we need to do, this has all been about creating magic, and that you are the magician when it comes to communication. And so part of that magic is that your audience feels that you are interested in them. And the way to do that, and the way that they then will be interested in you, is to engage with them. And the way that you do that on camera and online is to look at the camera. All too often, we look at the screen. And as soon as I'm going to look at the screen now, and I'm looking at you, Samir, on the screen, and you've lost me. So all the time, you need to engage by looking into the camera. And that camera should be at eye level or slightly above eye level, so that you're not looking down, don't want to see the top of your head, and also we don't want to be looking up your nose. It's not pretty. So have the camera at eye level or slightly above eye level and look into that camera. You can have it so that it's slightly to the left or slightly to the right, so that you can lean in. Leaning in is good because, it looks like you're interested, you're engaging even more. And if you lean in and you are kind of slightly to the left or slightly to the right, it's a better image, it's more flattering. If you look at people on the red carpet at events and they have their photos taken, they're usually slightly at an angle because it's very flattering, and it's, again, it makes you look very credible, it makes you look very good, all part of the magic. So, engage, engage, engage is the first do. Don't look at the screen. Don't have the camera so that you're looking down. And if you've got notes, try to have those notes either behind the camera or to the side of the camera at the same level as the camera, so that, again, you are always engaging. Now, it's okay for you to momentarily look away. Maybe, you've got to think about what it is next that you're going to say, and then you can come back. Because if you think of it as a conversation, ordinarily, you won't look somebody in the eye all of the time. You will look them in the eye, because otherwise they're going to think that you're shifty or there's something wrong or you're not interested in them. But you might momentarily look away, and that's okay. But for the most part, engage, 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 look into the camera. Now, you should be framed so that you're showing the top of your head down to your bust, if you're a woman, or your chest. And that frame is as well that there's a slight gap from the top of your head to the top of the screen, so that you're beautifully framed and you're central in the frame, so that, again, you look very warm, you look very engaging, and people can see you. As soon as I lean back, I'm not as engaging. And if I'm right on top of you as well, that's very off-putting. We really don't want to see all of my wrinkles, and I don't want to see yours either. Thank you very much. So, be framed beautifully. Lighting should be in front of you, not coming in at the side, and not on top of you, and not behind you. It will make you look shadowed. It won't literally cast a very good light upon you. So have the light in front of you. If you have to have a light behind you, make up for it by having two lights in front. So if there is a light from behind, two lights in front, it will help the shadowing. And your background. It needs to be clean. It needs to be clear. It should not be distracting. Now, people say to me, well, how about using these virtual backgrounds? And I say, don't. Because what happens is that when you move, you kind of blur into the background. And sometimes it makes you look like you've got pointy ears or you've got something coming out of your head. And that's all distracting. And we don't want any distractions from what you are saying and what you are presenting. So background should be clean and clear and not have too many books. I don't want your dirty washing hanging up, and I don't want your mum coming into the room saying, do you want a cup of tea, dear? As lovely as that would be, we don't want everyone else to see that or share that, because she can't make a cup of tea for everyone. And in terms of distractions as well, you need to keep still. Because otherwise, if you are moving, it becomes a distraction. A lot of my students, when they're speaking in person, they say to me, but Alicia, I like to move, I don't want to keep still. And I say to them, well, why? What's the purpose? Everything that you do has to have a purpose. Maybe that you're doing it for emphasis. Maybe you're doing it to motivate your audience, and that's fine. But it should never be a distraction. And that's the same as using your hands. So, never clasp. Never have your hands here. Never be clapping. Never be punching at the screen. Never be spending the whole time with your thumbs in front. Because what's just happened is that you are now watching my hands and my movements, and you're actually not listening to me anymore. So keep those distractions still. You can show your hands and you can use them for emphasis, but use them sparingly. Another thing is to not to eat when you're on camera. The number of times that I've been in meetings recently and people are either chewing or they're eating their lunch or they're drinking on a straw. It's very rude. Really don't do it. And I would also say as well that if you're going to leave the meeting, tell people that you are going to leave. And also, think about what you're wearing, because again, you want to look good on camera. So wear blue, wear pastel colors, and if you're wearing a dark jacket, wear blue or pastel colors underneath. You can wear purple as well. Don't wear checks, don't wear stripes, because they have the effect of blurring on the screen. Red does. Red is, it makes you bleed on camera, and we certainly don't want any blood. So wear clothes that are blue, pastel, purple, and gentlemen, if you're wearing a tie, make sure that it's plain, that it's not busy, busy, busy. Because again, we don't want the distractions. So there's some do's and don'ts, and they will help you all in this magic of your communication.
Thank you so much. And you know, we got to think of ourselves that we're on live broadcast TV, right? That's essentially how you've set this up. I mean, you've been on, you've helped out with BBC and you know, the London Olympics, and so you know what you're talking about. And so, you know, we might be thinking, well, I like to express myself in these calls, and that's great. It's great to express ourselves, but we also need to think about, you know, that what we're expressing is being received in a clear way and not being distracted from.
Yes, exactly, because it takes us back to my original premise. It's not about you, it is about your audience, and it's about their comfort, it's about their interest, it's about their engagement. Another thing as well, and it brings me to why I'm not wearing my glasses, because your glasses should be anti-glare. Now, these aren't too bad, but you are getting a little bit of glare off of them. So if your glasses are not anti-glare, don't wear them as much as possible. And as much as possible, do have anti-glare lenses, because otherwise you've got the reflection and it becomes a distraction.
So at this point, I'd like to turn to the audience for questions. You can go ahead and, as I asked the last question to Alicia for this workshop, feel free to type in any questions that you might have so that we can grab a few of those and maybe have a chance to go through one or two of them as we wrap up here. But the final question from me to you, Alicia, you know, whether it's teaching students or collaborating with colleagues, effective communication and learning begins with forming relationships with a foundation of authenticity and trust. And so we know, for example, that students learn better when they have a trusted, healthy relationship with a teacher. Or in the boardroom, ideas are better received when there's emotional buy-in and trust is established. So what advice would you have for our audience today on how to build relationships that are authentic in a virtual world? You know, this is a dynamic I don't think we've had to really think about before, but now I got to think about forming a relationship online.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so I think everything that I have said to date will help you in establishing your relationships online. And I think that one of the important things you spoke about, authenticity, and it is so important that you are authentic. And I think that in building your relationships, that you have listening, because it's so important for people to feel that you are not only speaking to them, but you are listening to them. And you can do that even when you are speaking, in the way that you speak, in the way that you engage with your audience. You can listen to them, and that will come across because it will be that you are interested in them. I also think that ways of building the relationship and engaging is to have interaction. So what you can do is to involve your audience and to involve them very quickly in what you are saying. So maybe you can do a poll at the start of your presentation. You can ask your audience a question which is very relevant to what you are speaking about, and you can take a poll. And a lot of these online platforms have that built into their systems. Or otherwise it's very easy to get them and put them into your online platform. So you can do a poll, ask them questions. Another thing is to do a quiz. People love quizzes. They love to be competitive. So if you do a quiz for your students or for your audience, it gets them involved, it gets them interacting, and they'll feel that they are in a relationship with you. And you mentioned about TikTok videos. I think that for our students, if we give them assignments that will help them to relate to us with what they relate to. So, for example, you give them an assignment and they have to do a TikTok video, or they have to do a video as if it's for their YouTube channel, or that it's a vlog. And you as a teacher will very quickly know if they've grasped the concept of what it is that you are teaching them when they produce that video. And it will be fun for them, it will be fun for you to watch them as well. And it will be part of the interaction and part of the magic that you are producing. Remember, in building your relationships, we started with 24-karat magic. And when you are presenting, it's an opportunity for you to share wonderful you and to communicate your magic. And if you do that, and you do all of the things that I have talked about today, you are going to be a magic communicator, and people will say, "How do you do it?"
Thank you, Alicia. And, that's a wonderful wrap up to this wonderful workshop. The idea of TikTok videos or even YouTube homework assignments, I think that's really wonderful, especially when we look at, I was looking at a poll or some sort of a statistic the other day, which highlighted the fact that most of students in school today, when asked what they want to be when they grow up, it's a YouTube star, right? Or one of these social media stars. And so, if that's where their minds are and that's where they're consuming information, why not make that a part of the learning medium?
Yep.
And, for those who are here more from a professional standpoint, I might be curious, okay, I'm about to go into a boardroom, I'm about to present to a boardroom right now, or to a group of colleagues, maybe I'm making a pitch. What are some tips that you might be able to offer on how can I build that relationship before I dive right into the content? And, being that professional broadcaster, how can I build that sense of relationship, camaraderie at the front end? So, I've got them a little bit more plugged in through the rest of the presentation.
I think that, again, it's about getting them involved and doing that very quickly. So the way to do that is if you can possibly ask them a question that they can respond to. So either that could be a poll question, or alternatively, that you ask them a question and you actually get them to answer it, which could be on the chat, or that they can actually come on video. If it's a small meeting that you're conducting, you can actually ask them a question and get them to answer it, come on video, so that you can immediately get that contact and get that relationship with them. What I like to do is I introduce myself. I liked, if there's time and there's fewer people, I like them to introduce themselves as well and tell me a bit about them, what is their interests or passions, what they hope to get from the seminar maybe today, so that you are straight away engaged and you are involved and you have got that contact with your audience immediately.
Wonderful. And we've got one question from the audience. Let's say I'm using a blackboard or whiteboard, or I have a need to present on any of these mediums. What are some suggestions or tips that you have for the use of a whiteboard or blackboard or any other digital presentation material, which may require screen time, etc.?
Right. Okay. Yes, I really admire people who are actually screen sharing and having things on the screen as well as themselves. And I think that it's great because it can break up a presentation, particularly for learners who learn visually rather than by audio. So yes, do use things, have on your screen, but with everything, what is the purpose? So it should not be a distraction from what you are saying. So don't have too much information on the screen that people are then scrabbling to read that, because then they're not listening to you. And also don't have on the screen everything that you're saying, because I will feel, well, I could have stayed at home and just read your PowerPoint and not actually listened to you. So yes, use the screen and do screen share, but ask yourself, what is the purpose? Is it going to enhance what you are saying? And have the information very clear so that people can see it, read it, take it in, and know what the impact is and what the purpose is and the effect. You could have an image and have a photo. It must be high resolution, high definition, and similarly, if you're going to use a video as well, have that keyed up to where it should start and where it should end, and make sure that it is in high definition. Nothing should be a distraction from what you are saying.
I think if I'm to wrap that brilliant point up, it is that, instead of using presentations to hide behind presentations, right? Oh, I get to like sit this one out because the screen's going to take over. It's how is the presentation an extension of us? It's the other way around, right? So that was very well put. So today's event has been a part of our timely series that we've been producing for the last couple of months. To see more of our work, you can visit our website at www.nolimitgen.org. And if you'd like to schedule a consultation with Alicia Sedgwick, please send her an email at Alicia Sedgwick, that's ALICIA.SEDGWICK15@gmail.com. Or you can add her on LinkedIn. She's over there, and you can directly connect with her. But she'd be happy to work with you or your organization. We're getting lots of thank yous for the brilliant presentation. So there's a lot of love coming in from the audience on the helpful tips that you provided today. I can't go through them all, but I can just say that there's a lot of them. And we love getting your feedback. So if you have any thoughts or feedback to share, any topics you'd like us to cover in the future, feel free to get in touch with us through our website, on Facebook or Instagram. Finally, we're a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to keep this excellent programming open and free of access for everyone. So we're so grateful for any donations that come in through our website. And a special thank you for those of you who helped organize the event, and our event's producers, Alicia, Ajan, Chris. Thank you all so much for your help in setting this event up, and to our audience for being here today with us. Take care, everybody.